Hello and welcome to NoCB, the Grand Strategy Podcast. A Grand Strategy Podcast. I don't know for sure if we're the only
we're the only one. Let's just proclaim it now.
Yeah, we're going to proclaim that we are.
We're like Tigger. We're the only one.
Yeah,
we are the Grand Strategy Podcast, and you now have a diplomatic insult CB on us if you believe that that's not true. So
all
fight
of us are
illegitimate,
and not as good,
right?
Of course,
We're the Highlander of Grand Strategy Podcast. The other ones are Highlander 2.
There can be only one.
Exactly.
I'm gonna have to watch the film again tomorrow. Thank you.
I am TJ Hafer, and joining me is our wonderful panel, including Rose,
hello,
including Lambert,
hello,
and including Father Loris, back from Parts Unknown.
Hello, I'm back from Parts Unknown.
And we've got quite a bit to discuss today, actually. We're going to start out with the latest dev diary for CK3, since it's yet to be released. It gets first priority. And we'll look at that. I was just talking last week about how the thing I was most interested in regarding lifestyles was what kind of events we're going to see with the lifestyles. And that's exactly what this dev diary is. Baron Von Shoes, which is a wonderful username, has shown us some of the events that we can get from the various lifestyle focuses, which they did specify that you're mostly going to see events from the focus you're currently on, but you can rarely get ones from the other focuses within the same skill group, which is kind of cool.
And it makes a lot of sense, because while you're focusing on trying to seduce everyone in court, it may be fun to go and murder someone sometime.
It's always fun to go murder someone.
Love and murder go hand in hand.
They really do.
Especially when succession titles are in
the
prize.
They're the left and right hand of a wise medieval ruler are, love and murder. So, they showed off some events with how it's going to be less of a. They're trying to make it less of a. There's always one obvious choice that you always want to pick, sort of thing. The example they gave here was you might have a corrupt tax collector, and you can investigate that directly. You can assume direct control over taxes. Or you can just kill everyone and bring in new tax collectors, which honestly sounds like the most efficient way to go about it. They've also showed off, though, which some people in the comments picked this out, and I think they're absolutely right, that certain options in these events can give you a decrease or an increase in stress, which is what we're pretty sure that those little blue and red arrows mean, which I talked with Henrik about a little bit way back when I did the preview back in November, about how if you play against your character traits, your stress will go up, and if you play to your character traits, your stress will go down, which I love. I love that mechanic.
You to role play.
Yeah,
yes, for sure.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
They mentioned it months ago. It was some people didn't like that because they like the option of being able to do whatever they want.
Well, you can. It's just you're going to face consequences for it.
Yeah.
Some people just don't want consequences.
Well, that's great.
Don't play grand strategy games. Like, aggressive expansion is basically the same thing. It's a consequence for being able to do whatever you want. Like,
I want to play a video game where there's no consequence to any of my actions ever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's creative mode. It's boring. Survival mode's where it's at.
I just want to sit on the main menu. I don't want to click a button, because clicking a button takes me to a different menu, and that's a consequence, and I don't like that.
Well, then, as Meneth is pointing out, you can just use the console and give yourself whatever you want.
Right. Just make a mod called I don't want to roleplay in this role-playing game, and it just gives you a button that sets your stress back to 0. There you go.
That's great, though, because when you're playing a cruel, vindictive character in CK2, sometimes, you don't really click on the ones that are the cruel options sometimes, because it's a bad option. But now there's an extra incentive to be and more of a tyrant, right? If
it was one of those main things that was talked to me about when I did the interview with Henrik and Alexander. Stress was one of the things that they were like most excited about. So I quite liked what they were saying.
By the way, our caption bot is apparently HRE propaganda because it keeps localizing the Scandinavian Henrik into the German Heinrich, which is unacceptable.
Sorry, Henrik, if you're listening, you're being renamed now.
It's the same name, but hey, come on.
I mean, Groogy is groovy. Meneth is
Menace. He's now Menace.
Yeah, he was Menace earlier on when I forgot to turn the caption bot off. That's the hidden bonus episode that the few of you who came into the chat super early will get to see. What else really stood out to you guys about this dev diary? Anything in particular? Maybe this guy's hat.
Can I just say once again that I really like the fact that we have the dynamic portraits for.
Yes.
Yes. It feels more personalized. Like, I love the artwork in CK2, but occasionally you'll get events in the artwork and it's just confusing a little because you can tell they wanted to add more events, but they didn't have the artwork for it.
I mean, some of these backgrounds are actually pretty elaborate. Like, I don't think we've seen like this level of detail with the throne room previously.
I tell you what we've done really well is for lighting on them. I'm going into a proper aesthetic rant now, but medieval rooms are like cold, and they look cold. And you've got the lovely natural lighting coming through the window, and then you've got the beautiful red glow from candlelight, but looks very natural. I just love it. Especially
trust the artist to focus on that.
It's just so nice. Farewell.
No, I agree.
With the candlelight and everything in the background, it just feels like a scene out of Game of Thrones when they're sitting in one of the feasts in the north.
Where's the Starbucks?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially like was it the first episode? I think there was one of those scenes. There were several in the later episodes, later seasons too. But
I'm a fan of the aesthetic they've gone with for the scenery for sure. Mm-hmm. Where everything is just kind of lit naturally and it kind of fades from areas of more focus.
Natural lighting doesn't look Hollywoody.
Less focus to make the text.
One thing
easier to read.
I do want to ask you specifically, Loris, is you see the last guy there in the flaw of a character.
Mm.
That name, how do you pronounce that?
I don't know.
Cadogan?
Cadogan, I guess. Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
I don't know.
W's a vowel.
He just looks like he looks like a proper prick. He looks like the kind of son that I would put on a very long boat ride to nowhere.
Well, you could attempt to rectify his flaws.
I don't know.
Make him less of a prick.
It's one of those Welsh names, but it's so difficult that like not even Welsh people name their kids that anymore.
I could attempt to rectify his flaws. I could also attempt to conquer the world. You have to keep your ambitions in check sometimes. There's some things that are just beyond the scope of normal people.
I do have one comment on the artwork, though. At least of the characters. The way he's holding his hands, if you blow that picture up so it takes a bigger screen, it looks like it's like sausages. And you count the fingers, there's the right amount of fingers, but it looks like there's too many fingers.
It does. I actually had to count them individually because I was like, wait, does this guy have like 14 fingers or something?
He's got very Nosferatu hands. That's what he's got. He's got a bad case of the old Nosferatu hands there.
I mean, I think
Inigo Montoya is going to go after him soon.
Yeah. The big underdevelopment thing right here is probably relevant to the current look of his hands, but also
hands
just
are difficult. Every artist knows hands are too hard.
I don't know why it doesn't look nearly as sausagey.
Or the ones on the woman in the Sweet Farewell; those look much better.
I know that like the characters themselves, they've got genetic traits, right? I mean, inherit them. So maybe sausage fingers is one of those.
Sausage fingers trait, yeah.
You have a dynasty that you could breed out the sausage fingers if you really want to. Or really lean into it, have a sausage finger dynasty.
There you go.
Maybe they're just especially strong at gripping things, so they never drop their sword in fights.
I don't know why you would try to rock this hat. I know it's probably some kind of an arming cap, but it just makes you look like a milkmaid. I'm not liking Cadigan's fashion sense here. I mean, the tunic's all right. It's kind of like a burgundy sort of. I'm not sure about the sleeves on there, but yeah, that hat. I think he needs to lose that hat. That's the first thing I'm going to attempt to rectify.
It would actually be quite often tied, and then you'd put the helmet on top over it. So
right, but he's wearing it around the castle, like it's a fashion statement or something. So.
What you don't see is he's actually got a massive bald spot that he's covering up with that. That's what's going on there.
I see. Okay. Any final thoughts on this dev diary before we move on?
It's good.
I'm looking forward to next week. They're going in depth with the intrigue lifestyle.
Oh yeah,
looking forward to
that. I think that's what most of us are most excited to see the changes as far as lifestyles go.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's like any big surprises in this dev diary. I mean, I think this is what we expect from.
Besides the sausage fingers.
Right? Yeah, the sausage fingers.
Well, I wasn't surprised about it because I didn't notice surprises. It until you pointed it out.
Now you can't unsee it.
I was focused on that glare because that is one powerful glower.
It is. It really is.
It does take the attention north of the chin.
Yeah.
And then, but once you see the sausage fingers, you can't unsee them, though.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yep.
You're welcome.
This is all of our curse to bear at this point.
Well, one of the good parts about the sausage fingers, though, is it lets you last a bit longer in a siege because you can just eat some sausages.
Okay, there you go.
How will you grip your sword?
Well, I mean, if you're at the point where you're eating your own fingers, I don't think that's really something you gotta be worried about.
Wars are ultimately about resources, right? Especially sieges.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can start with your offhand, and then you can still fight. You can strap your shield to the stump and fight with your good hand. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we did get a quick Stellaris dev diary, which they're actually going to be doing a series of Q&As, which tells me that this particular DLC is probably still a little bit off since they have 5 of them on the schedule already.
Well, we have 2. One is tomorrow, and then we have another in a week. So I'm looking at maybe like a late February, early March. Maybe for Federations?
That seems about right, yeah.
What I feel like it's doing is they've shown us everything that's going to be in the patch, but they're leaving these next 5 weeks to be, all right, for the 5 weeks we'll do some Q&As while we work on bug fixes and optimizations, because let's be fair, Stellaris really needs some kind of optimizations for the late game. Yeah. I'm thinking that's sort of maybe what's going on. At least I hope that's what's going on.
I think that's my prediction too, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and that would make a lot of sense, and that would be my... I would be very happy to have the DLC delayed a little bit if they're just wanting to release it with a bunch of optimizations for the late game. Because it's not especially playable in the late game right now, unfortunately.
Especially
it does get slow.
Yeah, which Hoi 4 had that same problem for a while, and they figured it out. So I've got hope for it. They're also introducing indentured servitude as a new slavery type, because what's Stellaris without like 8 different types of slavery? So they're.
I mean, if you're not gonna have slaves, you might as well be eating the people.
Right.
So
the advantages of this being that they can be employed in specialist jobs, which some of the other slavery types cannot, and they have a lower happiness reduction, but they also have more political power than other slave types. You can play Elon Musk's Colonize Mars simulator, and
Well, what strikes me is they're mentioning the indentured servitude. It reminds me of how slavery worked a lot in the Roman Empire, because a lot of tradespeople were slaves. They had trades, they had skills. It wasn't just menial labor.
Right, like chattel slavery is what I think a lot of 20th century people think of when we think of slavery, but historically there have been many other forms that slavery has taken that are more or less
over the millennia.
Right. That might be more or less terrible than one another.
What was it? I think it was
I don't know. We're gonna do a
top 10 types of slavery.
It was either
top 10 slaveries.
I think it's either the Mayans or the Aztecs. They had one where people would sell themselves into slavery, but they'd still get part of the income that they produced, and then they could buy themselves back out. And it was basically a way to guarantee that they don't starve to death if they've had a poor harvest or they lost their home.
I hadn't heard about that.
Benevolent slavery, yeah.
So it was more. It was closer to what we considered indentured servitude from the 1800s, the colonial period.
If we had a YouTube channel, we could have done like a tier list. That's great for.
Someone call Watch Mojo.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I actually tinkered with the idea of doing like a history version of Tier Zoo. I don't know if you guys have seen that channel, but he basically makes tier lists for different animals. I was like, I bet you could do that with like historical generals and stuff. And he talks about the real world as if it's a video game. Like he talks about
I've heard of him.
The Permian patch and the Pleistocene patch and like all this stuff. And it's good. It's a cool channel if you haven't watched it before. Let's see. So, I think that's about it as far as Stellaris. If you guys want to send in questions for those Q&As, go ahead and hop on the forums, and they'll as of tomorrow they'll be starting those up. So.
I quite like just like extra
Iron 4 also
in general for pops, right? I mean, like, I do like that little drop down and sort of micromanaging what your society looks like. I think that's real fun in Stellaris. Definitely.
Yeah, like I'm not
like the main joy of Stellaris in many ways, besides 100%. Watching the space battles.
Right, like I'm not 100% sure strategically why I would use indentured servitude, but roleplay wise, I could think of plenty of reasons. So.
Well, even gameplay wise, if your economy is based on slavery, but you have too many workers and you have too many slaves compared to your own pops because you've been conquering a lot, you may want to give some of those slaves more leeway so they can cover the open spaces that your own people can't fill.
Yeah,
or you can just eat them.
which was why Rome was the way they were.
Yeah.
Just plug a microchip.
I think Rome would have been a lot more successful if they just ate for goals, to be honest. I think that would have been far more efficient.
Well, having way too many slaves compared to the rest of my population is definitely a problem I run into in Imperator a lot. So that's that might be helpful.
That's a problem because that's just money.
Well, it is, but then they want to have like slave revolts and stuff. So
eat them. Just eat them.
Eat them too. Eat them too.
I don't think you can eat the slaves in Imperator,
sadly.
Though.
Yeah, roleplay.
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah, we just need to wait for the next religion update to come out, and then we can adopt the chaos gods as our pantheon, and then we'll be able to eat slaves.
If you think about it, if the slaves revolt, they're not eating your food.
That's actually a good.
To switch to Imperator.
Yeah, that's
talking about pantheons.
Yeah, let's. I'm gonna call an audible. We'll talk about Imperator next, and then we'll talk about Hoi 4, because that's too good of a transition. But they're reworking how state pantheons work, where instead of just having 8 that are based on your starting tag, you're gonna pick 4 for the categories of fertility, war, culture, and economy, and they can be based on I think any religion that you have pops of in your empire, which is really cool. So you could have like
their holy site.
That too. So you could have like a Hellenic fertility goddess. You could have like a Germanic war god, an Eastern, Tibetan bone pagan, however you pronounce that, culture god, and then I don't know, like a Gaulish economic god or something like that. Which
is very known for their mastery of economics.
Hey. Yes, that famous Gaulish god of the economy.
Yeah, well, hey, they had a lot of gold to make jewelry for their warriors.
I guess. So no, they were pretty good goldsmiths, to be fair. Yeah,
they were making some cash before. I
just like the idea of a god that's like he's a Keynesian, or something.
Yeah, the Gauls invent Keynesian economics in the 1st century BC. Yeah. Yeah, I like this a lot. I mean, it fits a lot better, I think, with the era and with the kind of syncretism that was going on. You had Romans who worshipped Isis. You had Epona, who was the Gaulish horse goddess that became very important within the Roman world.
This is going on YouTube, so you need to clarify what you mean by Isis.
Isis is in the Egyptian goddess Isis.
Yeah.
Not as in the...
not the dog from Downton Abbey. It's very easy to confuse the two.
Yeah. Wait, really? I don't watch that show. That's...
It does bring up a question, because we do have the one non-polytheistic major religion that a lot of people play. You play as Judea.
Right.
Yeah. One of the main issues Judea had with being conquered was by the Romans is they refused to worship their gods.
Right.
Or at least recognize them. So I'm wondering if that's going to carry over, or they're just...
So Trin Tragula actually responded to this. He said, Judaism will be elaborated on in a later diary. It's not the main focus of this update, but it's also not forgotten. So I think there will be some mechanic for them to stay monotheist. I mean, currently how it works in the game is there's like the blessing of Abraham and like all these other things that are like, you're not necessarily praying to a god, but they're associated with biblical figures.
Yes, biblical figures.
Yeah. So that'll definitely be interesting to see. I think Zoroastrianism is another one
as well.
Yeah.
And Buddhism doesn't have really any gods.
Yeah.
Right.
I have to admit, I haven't played much with Buddhism. I wasn't able to get it converted when I was playing over in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, it was almost impossible before, I think it was 1.2, where they added the decision where you could just convert to Buddhism. Like the way to actually become Buddhist in Imperator 1.0 was extremely painstakingly difficult.
Now it's not too bad. I managed to play a Tibet game and convert to Buddhism. Which is pretty fun.
As Agmade is pointing on chat, they should remove the pig stabbing sound from when you're playing as Judea.
Oh yeah.
That's very questionable.
Yeah, that should probably be like a lamb or something. Yeah.
Yep.
That would make sense. We get different sacrifice sounds for every religion. Let's or
at least for whoever your main, what the majority religion is.
The one thing...
Or you can even select the sound, maybe, for some of them. If you have 2 gods from the Egyptian pantheon, 2 gods from Hellenic pantheon, you can pick which sound you want.
Yeah, you can ring a big Buddhist bell while slaughtering a pig at the same time and double up.
Yes. Customize the sacrifices.
The one thing that I'm a little bit disappointed about with this is that it's taking the number of possible gods you can have in your state religion from 8 down to 4. I would have liked it maybe if you could also pick 3 minor gods that give you a smaller bonus or something. In addition to the 4 big ones.
The gods, you need to swap them out. I think it's only a 5-year cooldown, and you can swap them in and out as you want. The difference is the 4 that you have. You get a passive bonus all the time for those main 4, but you also have the click a button to get a the omen, the main power from it. But you can just, if you don't like Hermes anymore, tell him to fuck off and get some Athena instead.
Okay, gotcha.
Which, if you're going for the role play, you want to do that every time you get a new leader.
That would be interesting, actually.
They've also mentioned that the Cult of Alexander is going to be one of the things you can choose to venerate, which is very interesting, and makes me wonder if maybe eventually we'll see the Roman imperial cult.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Can you worship yourself? Because never mind Alexander, I want my leader to be
come on, that poser. Which currently Imperator doesn't go quite far enough into the timeline for the Roman imperial cult to be established. But I say currently, meaning I really want this game to extend into the imperial era. So, yeah.
Well, Agamede had a really good comment in the forum saying, "Please tell me the imperial cult will have the ruler as the deity. That would be so cool."
Yeah,
I'm 100% in favor of that, because imagine if they took that to its logical conclusion and every one of your rulers could be a potential omen person.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And basically all 4 of your omens are the characters you previously played as. That would be insanely fun.
That would be great.
That would be really cool.
Yep.
I would like that a lot.
And it add depth to the gameplay as well as to the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you got to choose what kind of bonus they had.
That would be really cool. Anything else about this dev diary that stuck out to you guys?
No, there was the additional one about Imperator where they're talking about crossplay.
Oh, right. They're adding crossplay so you can finally add multiplayer with your friends who have it on Game Pass if you have the Steam version, which is cool.
All your friends who have got Imperator on the Switch.
Exciting.
I didn't even.
Did you say the Switch?
Yeah, it's not on the Switch. Don't worry.
I have a fairly new MacBook Pro, and it can't even run Imperator that great. So I don't think a Switch.
It's a Mac.
No, I don't think a Switch.
So I don't think the Switch would run it as much as I would be all for having Paradox games on Switch. It's even Stellaris Console Edition on PS4 Pro, which is the most powerful hardware you can run it on. It's limited to 600 stars, and the max speed is what would be speed 3 in the PC version. So it's not quite comparable yet. With maybe the next gen of consoles will have the lifting power to do it, but we'll have to wait and see on that. They also mentioned very briefly that how they phrased it was, hypothetically speaking, if one was to consider altering the political parties present in Rome, and only Rome, which groupings seem the most sensible to you folks? So it sounds like they might be considering getting rid of all of the old factions that were based on monarch power types that don't exist anymore, and maybe doing something with Optimates and Populares, which I would personally be all for that.
I could see religion playing a bigger part in Roman politics as well. I know there technically should be part of the Optimates. I don't know how you pronounce it. But having a religious faction there as well, because going down to 2, where 1 is pretty much the one that you want, or it's the one that's going to be the most powerful at the start, and going towards the Populares would be causing quite a lot of civil unrest. If you just go with the 2 that way, I think it's a little bit not enough. Agamede had a good point there. I like the suggestion that great families would represent the parties. I could see that working as well.
That would be cool. I would definitely like to have a faction screen that is more I can see the people who are in this faction and what they are, contributing to their faction. I know there's
Make
ways
it look like a Senate floor.
Yeah, there's some events where you can sway people between factions, but currently they're pretty much set in a faction for the most part. Yeah, I'd like to see more fluidity there.
There's it's just not very well documented on how to do it.
Okay.
One of the it's the second one down on the left. I forgot what it's called, the office job. But that gives a big boost to joining the civic faction. Having holdings gives more weight towards the civic faction.
Okay.
Having an army has weight towards the military faction. So really, you only want to be trying to flip the populist people.
Right.
It's doable, but it's just much easier to smear reputation and get someone else to be your next consul.
Yeah. I definitely like the idea that they would go more based on the factions that existed historically instead of the ones that made sense for gameplay stuff that isn't even in the game anymore.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Even if it's just flavor labeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's about all the Imperator news for this week. But we also got a fairly beefy Hoi 4 dev diary. They're finally adding the Kingdom of Hawaii as a releasable tag. We were just talking about EU4 last week, how there's no Polynesian tag, and I really want them to add a Polynesian tag.
And apparently Hoi 4 is listening to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say that we're directly responsible for this dev diary about lifestyle events and also for all of the changes that have been done to Polynesia in Hoi 4. Those have all happened in the last 7 days since our last episode.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there you go. They're even adding like a game setup rule where you can have like the Polynesian Federation be released at the start of the game as like a unified state under the Hawaiian kings, which is very interesting.
That makes some fun off history play.
Yeah.
Why does the Kingdom of Hawaii not have a Union flag in their flag? Because they had that before America took them.
I think this is like representing if Hawaii like became completely independent and then conquered Polynesia. They said I completely lost my train of thought there. But I had a good point to make. It was really amazing. I assure you.
I believe you.
Best points, forgotten points.
I think it's going to be a very difficult campaign because you'll need so much naval power to just not lose all of your islands to Japan and or the US. And they don't start out with a very large industrial base. I guess if you have New Zealand as part of your federation, that they have some decent industry down there.
It's not only industry, you need the resources as well. Lots of steel, titanium, that sort of stuff.
So I think it'll be a very, very fun, interesting, but extremely difficult playthrough if you actually try that.
And people will exceed because there are some people that are very godlike at this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try it.
Polynesia World Conquest, like within a week.
Oh
yeah.
Definitely.
They've also done some further changes to like releasable tags in Iberia, Catalonia, Basque Country, and Galicia are all releasable now. They've also added an 11th of November fragmentation status, which I'm pretty sure is just going to reset the borders to EU4 borders.
I assume so, yeah.
That's the start date for EU4 is the 11th of November, 1444. So they're being cagey about it, but I think it's pretty clear what they're going for with that.
Yeah. Be a Castile and Aragon, right? I mean,
right.
Can we have a world fragmentation status for the 11th of November?
That would be great.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So much in Germany.
Well, but the thing is, if you're going to do that, you have to play Hoi 4 with the 11th, and then you have to play with the mod that makes the whole overlay look like Victoria 2.
There you go.
Well, no, because Loris has just said, imagine the HRE. I don't want that anymore. I rescind my comment. It is rescinded.
I don't know if this already exists. I would actually not be at all surprised if it does, but I would almost like just a mod that changes the game setup where every state on the map starts as independent, like a total fractured world thing. The thing that would be difficult with Hoi 4 with that is you'd have to determine how each one ended up aligning ideologically. I don't know if you just do random or, because that's such a big part of Hoi 4 is that everybody's going to coalesce into these bigger factions eventually.
Just make everyone a monarchy.
Or you could do that and just have, we're just going to have a free-for-all. So
it feels like that should just be a mod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd play it.
I just think it'd be really tough with resources.
Oh, God.
I think you'd need to rework trade in the game for that to work, and that I don't see that working.
No.
That might be why they haven't done it yet, because they've tried it and this kills the game.
Yeah.
Hoi 4 is designed as a war game, not an empire building game.
Yeah. It'd be interesting.
It might be why it's never really been my thing. I prefer the empire building.
Fair enough.
I typically enjoy it in multiplayer.
Yeah, it's a really good multiplayer game. Really, really good multiplayer game.
But then it's like, playing a board game like Risk with your friends. If you're sitting there playing it as an app on your phone.
What is that? I've never heard of that before. What is that? I've never heard of that before.
Risk?
No, Friends.
Are you...
Oh,
friends?
okay.
Now I'm hurt, Lambert. I thought I was your friend.
I was making a joke.
You're horrible.
No, there's no friendship. This is a no friendship allowed podcast.
No
I thought I made that clear. Yeah.
CBs come with friendships.
Yeah.
And this is the NoCB cast.
Exactly.
The no friend cast.
So the one other little Easter egg they're adding onto the long list of ridiculous formable nations in Hearts of Iron 4, you can restore the Empire of Al-Andalus and then eventually the Umayyad Caliphate, starting as any of the North African states, which I just think is hilarious. I mean, we can already restore the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, and the HRE, so why not, right? Like, why not just have more ridiculous formable tags that the AI are never going to do, but if you want to as a player, knock yourself
it gives you
out.
Goals.
Yeah.
It gives more meaning for people that want to do the single player game.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else? Oh, and India. They're finally fixing India's focus tree.
Yes.
So Britain can't lock you out of like half of your focus tree by forcing you to go independent, which is nice.
Yeah.
They can do that. There's a problem with Canada too.
Yeah.
I don't think they mentioned that, did they?
Some of the Together for Victory focus trees really need to be relooked at, and if they're doing it for India, that makes me think they'll do it for the other ones eventually too. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't forget America's hat.
No.
This
when the
episode
monkeys
was
come invading.
It was surprisingly controversial, right? I mean, like a lot of people were complaining about this stuff. I think there's a certain schism among people who really like having optional content like this, and people who don't for whatever reason. Maybe it takes them out of the immersion. Well, just wondering what side of a divide everyone falls on there.
I always figure more options are better. If you don't want them, turn them off. Ignore them.
I mean, here
no one's forcing you to recreate the Umayyad Caliphate.
Yeah, I think it kind of harkens back to the classic meme when they were announcing the factions for Rome, Total War Rome 2. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the "I don't want to play as Pontus" thread, where it's like, it's okay, you don't have to play as Pontus, and then he just goes running, screaming out the door. But I don't want to play as Pontus. It's like, I don't think they really took dev resources away from deepening the historical simulation to add in some funny formable tags.
Because it should be said, like, this is not exactly really, really hard work to do, right? I mean, like, it's
right.
It's not much work.
I mean, these decisions, like, I could probably script those in a day, and I'm not even good. So,
yeah, sorry, when I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the flags probably took the most time to make out of anything. If they have flags for communist, fascist, neutral,
it's going to be really
democratic.
awkward now if it's a member of the Paradox staff now who spent like 4 weeks working on this non-stop.
Yeah. Yeah. So grand strategy games in general, more options are good. You can turn them off if you don't like
them. And people are always going to complain. They're complaining right now about the Hoi 4. People complained when CK2 added in, events where, Satan will regrow your eyeballs.
Let's be fair, no one's talking about the eyeballs when it comes to Satan regrowing things.
Well,
it's the other kind of balls that they're talking about.
Yep, okay, but people complain about that, but you can turn it off if you don't want it. So, if you get the snip snip, you're stuck with the snip snip. Enjoy yourself.
Well, speaking of turning things on and off, I think that's a brilliant segue to talk about EU4 a little bit, because some of the dev teasers on Twitter have been quite interesting on that. Johan posted a week ago saying, I made this into an option now, so you can turn it off if you want to play a game where you want to go France, Prussia, Manchu, Ottomans. So the whole endgame tags thing is now completely optional, which is fantastic.
Right. And they've also finally fixed it so that you can just have war taxes stay on until you tell them to turn off, which is really nice.
Which is great.
I need a button telling me to turn it on, though.
Yes.
Especially when it's free. Because when it's free is the time I most frequently forget. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Not a button, you need a pop-up.
You know how your trade fleets, you have that option you can turn on that's like automatically go home at war? I want automatically raise war taxes when at war. That would save me.
Though, at $2 million a month, I would... sometimes that would be really useful and I'd totally do it. But other times, like, if I get to this next Miltech, I'm going to have such a huge advantage. I would never turn it on in that situation.
It's the same price, but it does feel like it's more expensive when it's put in the way $2 million per month rather than however much it was before.
If a war ends early, it's cheaper.
True.
If a war ends when you're only a year into your war taxes, and you still paid the full amount, whereas now it's, you don't, which is good.
True. But man,
and the other change we've got as well is for merchant republics. So you
no
longer have a hard-coded limit.
Fantastic. I love this change.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'll just have a higher governing cost.
Right. They pay more.
Seems like it.
More for states, but actually less for trade companies. That's minus 50% less than what trade companies normally cost, which is already at like minus 80 or minus 90 or something. Yeah. So dirt cheap
Very
trade
flavorful.
companies. Yeah.
And it encourages expansion, which EU4 is built around expansion.
Yeah, playing a Venice game a few patches ago, I hit that limit and I was like, well, what do I do now? I'm kind of bored. Oh, I'll just go form it at least so I can get rid of this shit monarchy. Republic.
Yeah.
The one time I did try playing a Merchant Republic several years ago before I started streaming, I had imported a Venice game from CK2 into EU4. Tried playing and I hit that 20 province and it basically made me flip the table. I was like, okay, I'm done. I walked away.
Yeah, it was a weird way to try to balance.
Because I was over 20 provinces already when I imported the game.
Yeah. So I think what I want to know about this is this change going to apply in some way to the Prussian monarchy as well, because currently they also have that, militarism. Once you're over a certain number of provinces, it starts hurting your militarism gain. And if they were to shift that onto something that was instead related to governing costs, I think I would find that a positive change too, because I don't think it makes a ton of sense that I know you're supposed to form Germany or whatever at that point, but it's like, if I want to keep the Prussian monarchy or the new Prussian Republic government reform that they're adding, it doesn't make a lot of sense that I'd become less militaristic because I own more land. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that
I would be in favor of that change as well.
That Prussia will get something similar to this, where they will find a way other than limiting your, maximum territory to balance them out. But the big thing that came out this week in relation to EU4, we got this little patch that they said was an experiment, and they weren't going to tell us what it was, which, by way of the Streisand effect, caused everybody to freak out. And so eventually they did tell us what it was, which is that they're testing a subscription model for DLC with a limited number of... I think they're rolling it out to like select players in select regions or something like that is how I understand it, where you can pay a cost per month and have access to basically all of the DLC that's ever come out, which is something we've talked about on this show being a potential solution to the problem that, hey, if I tell my friend to pick up EU4 today, if it's not on sale, they're going to be paying hundreds of dollars if they want to get caught up with me. Yeah.
It's for any of them, but EU4 is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's everyone's thoughts on the idea of I should say, I do want to specify beforehand that this is a test. They haven't officially announced anything yet. I think they want to collect feedback and data from this. That's why they're calling it an experiment. So, a lot of people jumping to conclusions about stuff might want to, just take a step back and realize that, this is a very early kind of preliminary.
Well, I do think part of this negative reaction to it is from people that already own the game and have bought all the DLC.
Right.
And so now they see this coming out, which is something they probably would have done themselves years ago or months ago when they bought the game. But that's the same complaints that you see when a game goes free for a while. Like when CK2 went free. Some people got upset about it because they had bought the base game of CK2.
Yeah.
They're going to another genre. About a year ago, EA made The Sims 4 free for like a week. You could download it and it was yours permanently. A lot of people got angry about that because they had bought the game for $40.
I do understand most people being upset if you bought it maybe a few days beforehand.
Yes. If you bought it a few days beforehand, I could see being very upset. But there were also people that had bought the game like 5 years before that are getting
that's
upset.
I don't quite understand. Yeah.
Though they did mention for this that there will be there'll be content only for subscription, not free.
Yeah, and that was the part that bugged me. And actually we have Long Game Short has found a picture of it.
Hold on. We have an update from Bjorn has just posted in the thread that the unit model that was originally planned to be subscriber exclusive will likely be in the next expansion.
Okay.
Oh, there we are.
So that's
Bjorn.
fine. That was the only thing that really bugged me about it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
What?
I'm so sorry, Bjorn. I was trying to click on the link and I misclicked because chat moved.
Oh, did you just ban him?
Rose just accidentally banned Bjorn.
You should be back now.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
Execute Order 66.
Let's just blame that on the pregnancy.
No, this has been in the plans all along. We're banning all Paradox people from the chat.
This was just just Bjorn. This whole podcast was just this elaborate honey trap to get back.
So sorry.
Get out of the chat and get on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can hop into the podcast actually, Bjorn, if you want to.
So that's
I was
fine.
supposed to ask you this morning. I kind of forgotten.
Yeah, I was I was concerned that like if they were going to have content that was exclusive to maintaining an active subscription, which doesn't even look like that's what this was. They said starting a subscription will reward you with the European Cursor unit, which is like, yeah, even if that were the case, like, yeah, I'll pay $5 for 1 month of subscription to get a unit pack. That's not going to bother me. I like having a complete version of the game.
And it's like buying the unit pack.
Yeah. I mean, one unit for I don't even know what the pricing is. I'm assuming it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 because they might be trying out different prices for different people for different regions. I'd imagine that might be part of why they didn't want to talk about anything official yet.
That's probably part of a test, right? Like sort of estimate.
Like see how many people would pay 5, see how many people would pay 6, something. I wouldn't be surprised if that were what they were going for. I don't know. How much do you guys think you would pay for like if you could have a subscription monthly that gave you access to all the DLC for all of PDS's games going forward?
Oh, that's tough. I probably would just buy it outright, to be honest, because that's still an option.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what. I'd probably do that.
I think there's a balance that needs to be made. You can't give the subscription people a massive benefit in cost over the buy outright people, and you can't do the opposite either. So that sort of means that you would need to have your updates and your DLCs planned in advance, so that if these subscription people are paying say $60 or €60 or whatever a year, so $5 a month, that would end up being the same amount they would be paying if they were buying them outright. So that basically locks them down into having a certain amount of DLCs at a certain price every year.
And that is definitely something that is I would say would be a little bit concerning because we had no DLC for EU4 last year, like at all.
Yep.
And if I were on a subscription, obviously I would be maybe a little bit miffed by that. But I also think most people in the EU4 community at this point are pretty okay with the fact that they took a year off to tackle tech debt and give us a really awesome patch and a really awesome expansion. And I worry that if a subscription model was available, they wouldn't feel at liberty to do that anymore. Whereas, it seems like a positive decision. Yeah.
The thing about the subscription model, though, is there's some people that don't play this game or these games constantly nonstop. They'll go on a binge with them and play it for 2 months, and then they'll set it aside for a year until the next DLC comes out. If this subscription setup had been around since the beginning when CK2 came out, I likely would have done that myself personally. Just because I was someone who would do that. I'd load up the game, I'd play 2 or 3 campaigns over a month or 2, and then I'd go play something else.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And if you remember to cancel your subscription.
Yeah.
There is one thing that Bjorn actually said in the forums as well. He had a hypothetical sort of think about what you could do in that situation. He came up maybe with a freeze. So you could freeze your subscription. And then when something comes out again, you can re-enable it. Maybe if the subscription would be for all the games, maybe you get a discounted price or you get a discounted monthly fee if you freeze that portion of the subscription. I don't know. But yeah, like having some kind of freeze on it would probably go a long way to sort of fixing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe there it is. Maybe there needs to be some sort of ability to freeze your subscription eventualities like the one you describe. Yeah, something like that could work.
That makes sense. That actually makes more sense in context, because one of the things I was wondering about is, I have to go through, every couple of months and see what I'm subscribed to. There's so many streaming services now. There's so many, subscription-based, we're going to deliver, toothbrushes to your house or whatever. Stuff like that these days that it's like, I have to really think about, break it down the value and figure out what my budget is going to be for that stuff. I've had to cancel a couple of streaming services recently because I wasn't really using them. So it's like if it's going to be, and I think $5 a month would be about what I would consider to be proper for something like this. If it's going to be another $5 a month, oh, go ahead.
We We do need to keep in mind that this is still a test to see how this goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not been implemented.
Yeah.
It's not replacing DLC. It's not going hand in hand with DLC. Right now, it's just how does this work? How do you guys think it will work? And is it actually feasible for our games? Because most games with subscription services are things like World of Warcraft.
Right.
Your big MMOs.
Right. So they're not even necessarily saying we're going to do this. They're trying to say, okay, we're trying to figure out if this is a good idea or not.
And
it's basically market research.
And we know it has to be a direct response to all of the negative feedback that comes from the DLC policy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean,
People
I've
have been complaining about that for years. And so now Paradox is trying to find a new way to support the developers, support the games, still give us new content, and make it more feasible for people on their wallets.
Right.
Can you blame them for wanting to try something?
So what?
I think trying it is fine.
Oh yeah. So, but sort of my point was, if I'm trying to justify that $5 a month, I have to think about how important, using $5 as a hypothetical, obviously, like how important is this to me? And I feel like most people for whom Paradox Development Studio games are important enough to them that they would work that $5 into their budget are probably the same people who would just be buying all of the DLCs outright anyway. Unless it was going to save you a significant amount of money.
People budget.
Yeah.
A lot of people budget by how much they're going to be spending every month. And then if they hear a new DLC is coming out in 2 weeks, if they already know they're budgeting every month for $5, it's easier to work into their monthly plan rather than, there's a new DLC. I need to spend $15 on that, or $10 or $5 or $20, whatever the DLC price is for that one.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think as long as if it does get implemented in a future game, say this test goes really well, the feedback is great, and it does become a thing in EU5 or whatever, I think there still needs to be the option for people to use the current business model.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
The subscription should always be an optional one. And I mean, again, in the forums, Bjorn has said that it is optional.
And
it's like the difference between do you buy a house or do you rent a house? Like, what would you rather? Do you rather like an upfront lump sum, or I guess it's not the same thing to get a mortgage or whatever, but
as someone pointed out in chat earlier too, it could be a way like they're still selling the DLC, you're not sure what you want, you can't afford all the DLC, you spend $5 for a month so you can play the game with all the DLC and then decide what you want to actually buy for yourself.
Yeah, and that's the part that
it's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, I didn't really consider when I was thinking of this over earlier, is the idea that you would have the subscription active for like a limited amount of time, either just because you don't play these games every month or you just want to check it out. And $5 is a pretty good deal for that. I think that have they said anything about whether you need to own the base game already? I assume you do because they're rolling it out to existing EU4 players, right? I'm not sure.
I didn't see anything about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I assumed it wasn't, but I could be wrong. That's just an assumption.
Yeah.
Either if they do roll it in with the base game, or if they make it a 2-tiered subscription where you pay one set amount if you have the base game and you pay more if you don't.
Yeah.
Either way, it does open these games up to new players, which has always been a huge stumbling block for games with lots of DLC, lots of expansion packs. It's hard to get new players when they're like, oh, I see CK2 is free right now. Can I play it? Yeah, it'll be fun. Oh, wait, what is this $100+ worth of DLC? What do I need?
Yeah.
What do I want? Why?
Yeah.
Or they go on YouTube to see what the game is about. They see it's free, they go on YouTube, see what it's about. They see someone playing as a Norse Viking and you think this is really bloody cool. Nice, I'm going to play this. Why can't I play as a Viking? Oh, DLC.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I'm always going to be the type of person who would rather just pay for something and then own it. I don't really like the idea of like temporarily leasing or licensing stuff. Even though that's technically, if you read the terms and conditions, what all software is these days is just a license to use it. But yeah, I'm as long as they preserve my ability to do that, I don't really care if, other people have a subscription option. That's not going to bother me at all.
I'd just be happy if more people play the games, because then there's a bigger community, more people making videos, more people playing in multiplayer games. Just grow the community as much as you can from any means necessary. I mean, if it gets more people into the games, that's a positive. I don't care how they get in.
Bjorn is confirming that right now you do need the base game to be included in the test.
Yeah. The base game's $1 right now on Humble Bundle, so...
And he mentions
there's a really good deal on Humble Bundle right now.
He also mentioned that the submodel has been suggested by the community, which is true. I think I've even talked about it on 3 Moves Ahead. I talked to Shams about it. Shams Georgiani, who's one of the bigger publishing guys at Paradox. Like as far back as like PDXCon 2015 or something like that. So yeah, it's something that there's been a desire for. I also had I had another really good point, and now I can't remember what it was. This time it wasn't I still think Shams turned into hamster on screen. Okay, so I need someone to make a wiki of what all the developer names that the closed captioning transcriber has suggested.
We need to update the dictionary.
Groogy, groovy,
hamster Georgiani,
apparently I was Lamb Earth earlier. Suppose that could go in.
You're just down to earth, that's all. With you and your anti-Wassid world.
There you go. I still think
the best world. You should join it.
No.
Come down to earth.
No.
I do still think in a perfect world, Paradox would start doing what World of Warcraft has started doing and just rolling expansions that are older than X date into the base game, or just making them like permanently $1 or something. Like the idea that I would buy a 6-year-old expansion to a game with hundreds of dollars of DLC at full price is just kind of silly. So I would say like maybe 5 years should be the cutoff, but I don't know. I don't know what everything looks like on the business end over there. That's just my suggestion for how I would probably approach the DLC accessibility.
I'd make it all free and give it to everyone forever.
Okay, well, all right, Mr.
I'm not a miser. I'm not greedy.
We should just force all of Paradox's developers to labor for free for our entertainment forever.
All right, Mr. Walmart.
It's a new.
We went away from slavery talk. When we
it's the new.
Went on to Imperator.
The new slavery type being added to Stellaris is you just enslave all the game developers, and So, Well,
as Dogberry is pointing out in chat, think of it back in the day when Blockbuster was still a thing. If you wanted to buy a new video game, a new NES game, or you were considering it, you'd go and rent it for, what was the period, 2-3 days? Try it out before you would go and buy it?
Yeah.
It's a good point. That would work.
The sub-service can be seen quite like that.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking before the show, Rose. You and I both played Outer Worlds on Game Pass. So, was that you that said that?
Yep, we both played Outer Worlds on the Game Pass.
Blockbuster, of course, was an outstanding financial success, famously.
Yeah.
Well, it was until they refused to innovate.
No, it was until Captain Marvel crashed through the roof of the final one.
Oh yeah. That's what really did him in, was the property image.
Yes.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, Paradox did used to do demos. I do remember the CK2 demo, which would not run on my computer, which stopped me from buying the base game until I upgraded my laptop.
Agamade, the 2-hour rule on Steam does work, but it only has either you only get the base game or you spend an inordinate amount of money to test the game with all the DLCs for less than 2 hours. That just isn't feasible. Whereas if you get, your $5 pass, you can try the game with all the DLCs for a month. And if you don't like it, you don't continue your subscription.
I remember with the old demos too, they were hacks that people used to make them less like demos. I remember that was a thing back in the day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Demos are probably not the best way.
Even the demos, like if you compare the original CK2 demo to just the base game now, like hell, I did a video on. I don't think they still have the demo anymore. CK2 used to though.
Right.
But like even if you compare the base game, I did a video a while back where I compared the base game of CK2 currently to what it was back in 2014.
Yeah,
vast difference.
The changes are remarkable. And that's, you can't keep demos going up to date like that very well.
Yeah, I think any PDS game you look at, like 5 years apart, anywhere on the timeline, the patch changes are much more substantial than the changes you would have for having all of the DLC. Actually,
and that's for anyone. Just even look at Stellaris.
Yeah,
the changes that it's gone through in the past 2 years.
Imperator, the change it went through in the past 9 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could even just say, like, the
9
past
months.
3 months.
It's been 9 months.
Yeah, but the big change came after with Cicero. It was 3 months ago. The game was completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean...
I would compare it just from when it came out.
The changes that really impact the game the most are all coming in the free updates.
Right.
And that is basically why I support the DLC model as it stands. I think it's a pretty damn good model, because even if you don't pay, you're getting hundreds or thousands of hours of dev time put into the game that you're playing, and all you've bought is the base game.
And it means it's financially viable for the company.
Yeah.
Okay. The captions just said, and all your bull is the best game.
They are right. The Papal Bull is indeed the best bull of all of them.
My concern
Actually, not as good as the Golden Bull.
About this subscription thing would be the effect it has on the current multiplayer subscription model, where the host can basically transfer the DLCs to everyone. I don't know how that would work within this subscription model.
I guess
that'd be my
just
concern.
The same. If the host has them all, then everyone has them all.
Yeah.
So if you're if you bought the base game and you've just been playing that, and your friend decides to subscribe,
they're now the host.
They have all the DLC, and they host the MP games that month.
Got you. I see. Well, if it works like that'd be great. I just don't want to find myself in a situation where I have to persuade all my friends to subscribe to Paradox because,
I can't. I think it would be a very, very bad business decision to limit that and remove that feature, because that is something that has made the Paradox games more open and has been a direct contrast to other strategy games like the Civilization ones.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
everyone has to have the exact same DLC to be able to play,
Yep.
or even be on the same operating system. There was a long time where Civ 6, if you were on a Mac and your friend was on a PC, you did not have the same patch.
Yeah.
Which in this day and age seems really ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, if you guys have thoughts about this, thoughts about the DLC model, thoughts about a Paradox subscription, you're for it, you're against it, you're not sure, you can always contact us, nocbcast@gmail.com, and we're also at nocbcast on Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and just grand strategy games in general. Before we get out of
also,
here,
if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a comment section.
There should be, yes. If I get off my butt and get them on YouTube, yeah.
You do say that, Bjorn, thoughts about the DLC model. That is a can of worms, and we do plan on opening that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we probably will have... I mean, we've talked about it a lot already, but we probably will have a show on it at some point, just because it's been such a big part of the story of, the rise of Paradox is... their way of handling DLC and various people's different reactions to it. So
this is what the subscription model's all about. It's getting over contrarian people who don't like the DLC model because it's to complain about the new one and defend fervently the old DLC model. That's what it is.
They just don't like change.
Which is,
Oh, isn't that the story of humanity, though?
Yeah, because I'm still grumpy about Facebook changing to the timeline. I mean, I'm still angry about that.
Remember when Facebook required you to have a college email to register for it?
Back in the good old days, then they changed it. I can't believe it.
And anyone could get in. Anyone. It was like, what?
I'm still mad about the conversion of Scandinavia, and that happened like 1,100 years ago. So, anyway, Rose, where can people find your stuff normally, and what have you been up to?
Here on Twitch at Enigmatic Rose 4.
Anything? Go ahead.
Playing Frostpunk this week, The Sims 4, checking out new DLCs, which we know The Sims 4 is just CK2 in a modern day setting.
Oh, yeah.
Complete with murder and mayhem.
It would be nice if you could actually rise through the power structure in The Sims 4 and become president or CEO or something like that. Just have it turn into House of Cards.
There is a political career where you can do
intrigue
that
focus.
Kind of.
He's got 14 kids or 15 kids and counting. So
there you go.
I need to talk to Satan for the other reason.
Yeah.
Well, he did get killed by a bed earlier this week, so someone's trying to get revenge on him.
Oh yeah, the new DLC's out. Was that out today?
15 kids?
Yesterday.
Are you sure it wasn't self-inflicted bed injuries?
This is now Sims.
He was trying to get the bed down to sleep with someone, and the bed decided it didn't want to have that anymore.
Oh man. Lambert, where can people find your stuff? What have you been up to lately?
Lambert2191 on YouTube and also on DLive. Still doing multiplayer Imperator Rome and single player Imperator Rome, and doing weekly dives into the dev diaries that come out.
All right. And Loris, what have you been up to lately? Where can people find your stuff?
On Twitter, I guess. Father Loris on Twitter, or chapelcomic.com for the comics. Mm-hmm. And I've been up to secret things, so can't talk about it.
Secret things.
Secret commissions.
Very secret.
Secret commissions.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. I'm AsaTJ on Twitter. That's ASATJ. You can also go check out the other strategy podcast I'm on, 3 Moves Ahead, where we just did a 2.5-hour episode about the 2010s in strategy gaming that had some really good discussions in it. And I think that's going to do it for this week. Follow us on Twitch, subscribe to us. We're on Twitch, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify. Throw some stars at us, leave some reviews, all that good stuff that helps us rise above the background noise and get more people on board. Tell your friends, tell your relatives, trick them into coming into your house, lock all the doors, make them listen to every episode until they agree that it is their favorite podcast of all time. And until next week, we'll see you guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.